Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And right now, I am doing a Facebook Live because I think it's about that time for me to do some Q&A. So if you have any questions about the New Orleans Saints or you want to discuss the New Orleans Saints or vent your frustrations, you can do so right now. While everybody is starting to file in, I just want to talk a little bit about something that I just seen, something that was just absolutely disturbing. And I just did post it on the State of the Saints podcast Facebook page, but it involves Antonio Brown. Outside of his home, police outside, and his mother of his children and his children outside. And the dude is up there like going into this big spiel. I'm talking about cursing out his the mother of his child, cursing out the police. And he doing this all in front of his own children. Like he's up there basically talking about the mother of his children all under clothes, calling her a B, calling her everything, as my grandfather would say, but a child of God, right in front of his children. Now, keep in mind, no matter how you feel about this woman, that's still the mother of your kids, and y'all still share kids together. Antonio Brown is one of the most disgraceful individuals that I ever seen in my entire life. That dude is a straight up embarrassment. I know everybody not, in here is not, of African descent, but he's a shame to the African American race, in my opinion. An absolute disgrace for you to be sitting out there going at it, talking about the mother of your child in front of her children. I mean, and your kids are like 4 and 5 years old, dude. My child is 7 months right now, and I watch what I say around him, and he probably don't even understand what I'm saying. That guy's a disgrace, man. And I know everybody was like, emailing me. Well, some of you were emailing me about, man, should we get Antonio Brown? This dude was like a straight clown, straight up embarrassment. Man, not only is he an embarrassment to the African American race, he is an embarrassment to the human race. I don't want this dude nowhere near my squad, man, for real. Honestly, I'm being 100. I'd rather the Saints go 3-13 than sign this clown. I'd rather the Saints go 0-16 than to sign this clown. I'm being honest. This dude is a person that is a prime example that you can't give everybody money, because now he feels empowered. And he done got his lawsuit money from the National Football League. He done got his money from the New England Patriots. And now he feels like he's empowered. But I'm telling you, man, we talk about mutant people. We talk about mutant R. Kelly. We talk about mutant Harvey Weinstein. We talk about mutant Bill Cosby. I think we need to mute this dude. I think we need to save this clown from himself. Because obviously, it's the fact that people give this dude a platform, the reason why he gets all this attention. I feel like, man, honestly, while we doing all this campaigning for all these other people, and don't get me wrong, they deserve to be muted themselves. But I think we need to save this dude from his own self, man, because the dude is a straight up 100% clown. Straight clown, man. I have absolutely no respect for this dude. None whatsoever. And honestly, if you still talking about him being a part of the Saints, man, like, I hate to say it like this, but you're a clown too. If you can't see what this dude is and the virus and the cancer that he is to football teams, I don't know what to tell you, man. Some things are just beyond winning. I just want to be honest with you. It goes way beyond just winning football games. Sometimes you just got to look and be like, man, this ain't right. And I understand, man, we want the Saints to be successful. And I understand that you want to brag and boast to your friends. And I know how watching the playoffs make you feel that the Saints are at home and teams are still playing. But, I mean, man, I couldn't, look, making a deal with the devil, nah, I'm good with that, bruh. I'm good. I'm sorry I went on that little rant, but that was just something I just seen, and it popped across my news feeds. And I checked out the video, man, and I'm just so disturbed at what I seen out there, clown, man. Like, cursing in front of your kids like that, man. Talking about their mom. Like, bruh, I ain't feeling it. I ain't feeling it at all. Not at all. That's an embarrassment. I'm gonna go ahead and look at some of these questions that you all have right now. Um, let's see. It says, "Good morning. Hey, what's going on, Ricky?" Lily Dunbar says, "Straight clown." Yep, he's definitely a clown. Straight up, 100% clown. I started to think they didn't call PI till I saw the one with the Texans and the Chiefs game yesterday. Um, Man, that was a really good game. It just made me have a lot of questions about the National Football League. What's going on, Chosen, man? Appreciate you checking in. Lily says, but he started that she was trying to steal Bentleys and stuff. Uh, Look, man, I don't care, man. Like, I don't care what if she was trying to do that or not, man. Like, you ain't got to be out there cursing the police and using all type of profane language. I mean, that don't justify it. That don't, like, man, that's your kids, bro. Like, that's your kids. Like, you up here cursing in front of your kids. Let's see. Shout out to LSU Tigers as they play tonight in New Orleans. Yeah, man. Shouts out to the LSU Tigers. Sorry about this reception, ladies and gentlemen. I'm at the studio. I'm at 90.9 FM. So I'm pretty sure that the cellular service that went down due to the weather that we having out here in South Carolina right now. And the station that I work at is like in the woods and there's a lot of trees around. So anytime like we have some bad weather, the reception goes out. So sorry about that. I have a big question. We like 23 million in dead money with Drew Brees. You think it would be a mistake if our cap was to drop him? Cause I want Hill to be the starter. Well, I don't know, man. Look, I think you bring back Drew Brees, if he decides to take a pay cut. But if Drew Brees out here what his asking market price is of $37 million, you let him go on his way. Look, man, I understand. I love Drew Brees, but at the end of the day, the New Orleans Saints got to continue to play in the future. So I don't want to make if you want to make a Super Bowl run, if you want to make sure that you get these pieces in place in order for y'all to make a championship team, then you got to take a pay cut, man. I mean, I think we all can agree. Drew Brees has had several contracts with the New Orleans Saints. The dark ages between, maybe 2013, at the end of that 2013 season on to about 2016, a lot of that had to do with the fact that Drew Brees was taking up the majority of the cap, so they couldn't really, get these offensive linemen that he need. And not to mention, this before Jeff Ireland came. He wasn't part of the scout team, so they was like whiffing in the draft. So I think if you want to come back, if you're Drew Brees, I think that Mickey Loomis, Sean Payton sit down with you and say, hey, look, how bad do you want a championship? Because as of right now, we want to make a championship team. We will ask that you don't get that $37 million. If you do, we can bring in this guy and that guy. So if he's willing to do that, fine. But I say bring him back. But if he's not going to do that, then I think you need to send him on his way. Let's see. Very team he was on, he brought down. Yep. That dude is a cancer, man. That dude is a cancer, straight up cancer. He's going to destroy himself. Let him keep clowning the way he does. Well, I mean, it's a little bit too late for that. It's a little bit too late for that, Lily. He already then destroyed himself. That guy's an embarrassment. Like I said, not just to the African-American race, but he's an embarrassment to the human race. That dude make me ashamed to share the same skin color as him. I'm being honest. Like, watching this dude like this. Like, can you imagine, like, how many young, guys that are watching this dude right now? They watch how he, conducts himself. And they probably think to themselves, okay, man, he's setting a bad example for some of these younger kids. And not to mention, you got some guys that wish they could play in the National Football League and have this dude talent. And he out here squandering it. I mean, this giving all these, big time, owners and stuff like that type of leverage. Like this new CBA is about to come into effect. They about to sit down at the table and discuss negotiation deals and stuff like that. So when you have idiots like this the owners can easily go to the table and be like, man, this is the reason why we got this cap. This is the reason why we set this in place, because we got people like Antonio Brown. Trust and believe they're going to use him as the prime example of why they set certain rules when it comes to contracts the way that they are. And he making it bad for all the future players that's going to come in the league, man. I mean, these guys, honestly, as popular as the NFL is, these guys get screwed out of money. You look at the NBA, like these guys making $200+ million off contracts, max deals, all that kind of stuff. In the NFL, these dudes out here getting pounded every single week, smashed, hurt, one play away from possibly, being a paraplegic. And they don't get what they deserve. And a lot of it has to do with this clown doing what he doing on Instagram, because he wants to be the star. He wants to be the center of attention. He out here, making a fool out of himself. And a lot of people going to say that's because of all of the money that he have. He feel like it empowers him. So it's going to really hurt the future of the National Football League, all these young players that's trying to come through. People like Saquon Barkley, who just want to come into the league to feed his family and ain't trying to make no big spills or anything like that. I mean, he just makes it bad for everybody else. What's up, fam? Good morning. What's going on, Earl, man? Thanks for checking out the chat. Once again, man, you can ask any questions that you want to, and if my reception is bad, I apologize. Feel free to ask me any question that you want to. I will answer any questions that you have for me. If we lose to another team, Hill will run over us, and we is going to be crying and wishing we should have kept him. I don't think he's going anywhere first, Leslie. Taysom Hill is a restricted free agent, which means that a team could try to give him a contract, but the Saints will counter it. And if you watch that end of the season press conference by Sean Payton, he acknowledged that. And he acknowledged it to let everybody know, look, he's ours. And you can give him a contract if you want to, but we gonna match it. He likes Taysom Hill. Like, honestly, he was very close-lipped about Drew Brees' future in that press conference. He was very close-lipped when it comes to Teddy Bridgewater. But when it comes to Taysom Hill, he kind of pepped up a little bit, what he talked about. So Taysom Hill ain't going nowhere. I'm telling y'all, he a restricted free agent. He not an unrestricted free agent. He still belongs to the Saints. I hate to say it like that, may seem like, on some slavery stuff, but he's still contractually obligated to the Saints unless a team, willing to pay him that money. And to be honest with you, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Saints are going to, sign him to a longer term deal, probably give him like a 3 or 4 year contract and probably give him between $15 to $16 million a year. I think that's probably going to happen. And I honestly feel that way, That rap video he did was just awful. Yeah, that was just awful. I mean, them bars trash. He trash. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, they go hand in hand. I mean, trash bars for a trash human being. And, and y'all know me, man. I'm not in the business to really be talking about people like that. I mean, I joke around and, I say something like smoke like brisket, burnt like a biscuit. I say, that boy can catch a cold and 40 below zero. He wouldn't catch a case if he committed the crime. But at the end of the day, it's all fun and games. I don't mean anything by it. I hope P.J. Williams end up going to another team, just not the Saints. I hope that Ted Ginn Jr. bounce back, just not the Saints. But you got to call a spade when you're talking about Antonio Brown, man. That dude trash, man. He's just a trash human being, a horrible human being, man. Anybody that's out there cursing like that, man, in front of their kid. I'm just watching little kids just walking around. I mean, can you imagine a 4 or 5 year old kid out there, man, probably scared to death, see the police? Man, y'all know how it go, man. These kids probably scared, wondering why these policemen out here, and what's going to happen to them. And you out here cursing to the top of your lungs and throwing gummy bears that shaped like penises, excuse me, but that's exactly what he did, throwing them at his the mother of his child, like an embarrassment. Straight embarrassment. Let's see. What's good, fam? Alvarez, what's going on? We need to fix our running game for next season and find out who's going to be our next starting quarterback. Look, we need to fix our running game, but it all starts with Earl committing to the running game. We got to commit to the running game. The Saints do not commit to the running game. This has always been a reoccurring issue over the past, man, as long as Sean Payton has been here. His inability to commit to the run. I was having a good conversation, and shouts out to my older brother, E.J. Jones. We was having a conversation last night, and he was talking about Sean Payton, and he was just talking about Sean Payton's ego won't allow him to, do some of the things that we as fans know that he should do. He feel like he have all the answers. He feel like, he shouldn't be questioned for anything. But I hate to say it like this. If you're not watching how the league is going, if you're not watching what teams are actually doing, looking at how the San Francisco 49ers ran the ball 12 consecutive times in a row. You ain't watching like how Derrick Henry for the past 3 games went over 180 yards rushing. You're not watching how Aaron Jones is being utilized in the Green Bay Packers offense. If you're not watching, how the Kansas City Chiefs are running the football, they didn't run yesterday because they had to throw themselves back into the game. But when the game started to get, back into control, you notice they were running the football. Until you make a commitment to the run game, you are not going anywhere. That's just facts. You can think you can throw the ball all over the field. It will excite us as fans. We will jump up out of our seats because we love the 40 and 50-yard bomb. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, sometimes you got to get in that phone booth and go mano a mano and let the best man win. That's how it is sometimes, If you're not playing like that, then you're not going to go anywhere. Throwing the ball all over the place, eventually that stuff going to catch up with you. Teams going to pin their ears back and start blitzing you, and if you don't have a quarterback that's like a Lamar Jackson, you're going to end up at home just like you are right now. Let's see. I see Bridgewater walking, Breeze and Hill stays. Craig, I don't know if Teddy Bridgewater going anywhere. I don't see that. He made a comment about how he just loves the city of New Orleans. And, usually like when I see people do stuff like that, they come out with comments like that, I be feeling like, man, that's just them politicking or whatever like that. But I feel like he genuinely means that. Like you see him walking around the city. Man, I have a good friend of mine. Shouts out to my boy Curtis. He had a flag football game, going on. And I think he posted it or something like that on Twitter. All of a sudden, Teddy Bridgewater just randomly came out there, was throwing a football around with him. Like he got a picture of Teddy Bridgewater just out there. Teddy Bridgewater, went to a high school state football game, inside of the Superdome. Man, this guy from Florida, man, he don't have no ties to the state. And, that just shows you like how he's trying to embed himself into the system, into the system and into the culture of New Orleans. So I believe him when he say that. And I honestly don't feel like he will be willing to go anywhere. I think teams going to really have to show him the money in order for him to leave. But the question is, like, what team is going to do that? The only team I can think about be willing to do that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. People say the New England Patriots, but history has shown us that the New England Patriots don't want to pay anybody, even their star players. Let's see. Ingram left on his own. Ingram's agent was the reason why he ended up leaving. They thought that they would be able to get more money from the Saints organization, so he told Mark Ingram not to answer his phone. And Mark Ingram didn't answer his phone when Sean Payton called. Sean Payton took that as if, well, man, maybe he decided he want to go somewhere else, and that's when they end up signing Latavius Murray. So honestly, his plan backfired because he thought that he was going to be able to get 2 years, $10 million. He still didn't get that with Baltimore, and he basically got the same contract Latavius Murray got with the New Orleans Saints. So he packed up his whole entire family and moved them to Baltimore for absolutely no reason whatsoever, for the same amount of money that he would have got with the Saints. And basically, they went one round ahead of what the Saints did, so, I mean, it is what it is. But I wish him the best, man. I mean, he's playing outstanding, playing some of his best football he's played since he got to the National Football League. It's good to see him spreading his wings, but I think it has a lot to do with him running the ball as best as he has been this season at the age of 30 because the Saints don't run the football. So, I mean, it's a lot of tread on the tires for Mark Ingram, especially like when you come from a team that all they want to do is throw the ball around the place. So Mark Ingram is 30 years old, but in football years, he's probably like 26 or 27. I don't think running game is Sean's ability. Murray did amazing when Alvin was hurt. Still didn't play him. I think it's about a seniority thing. I think that I mean honestly, man. I just look at Sean Payton feels like Alvin Kamara was the guy that he drafted, not Latavius Murray. Alvin Kamara's success is like Sean Payton and the Saints organization's success. Because that's their guy. He was the one that was drafted. They were the one that coached him up. They were the one that put him in these positions. So I think when you have a guy that's on the outside looking in, I think that, that kind of plays a role. I mean, just look at it. I mean, there was no earthly reason why the New Orleans Saints should allow Andrus Peat to start in the game when Nick Easton has been a steady for the past 6 weeks. But they allowed Andrus Peat to come into the game and play, and then he ended up just getting beat like a Persian rug, getting misused and abused. Dude just dragging him all over the field. I mean, there was no reason why Nick Easton shouldn't have been playing in that game. I mean, you look at the running game. Latavius Murray was getting way more success running the football than Alvin Kamara. The only logical explanation I have is the fact that Sean Payton lived by the sword and he dies by it. He's going to fall on the sword with the same guys he feel like brought him there. So sometimes his ego gets the best of him. But in my opinion, I don't think, the Saints are going anywhere if he can't put his ego in check. Let's see. Does it look like the NFL is rigged? It does to me, man. I've been talking about that since yesterday, but people on my regular Facebook page, they think I'm crazy, which, I mean, it's cool. I mean, it's cool. I really don't care. I am a conspiracy theorist. I will say that. I do feel like the Kennedy assassination was, something that the FBI did. I feel like the FBI had a lot to do with some of these random deaths in the 60s. I do feel like that. I am a conspiracy theorist, but I mean, I could be wrong. I'm not saying that I'm right, but it does look like it's rigged. You look at the Houston Texans, they go up 24-0, and then all of a sudden they forget how to play football, after that. You look at what happened to the Saints last year in the NFC Championship game versus a team that was basically brand new to the state, even though they were there back in the 80s. They still were new, and you're trying to gain interest in the city of Los Angeles. So what do? You try to make sure that those Los Angeles teams are successful. I found it very ironic that the San Diego Chargers didn't make the playoffs in like 2 years, and the St. Louis Rams didn't make the playoffs in like 4 or 5 years. All of a sudden, they get to Los Angeles, and they're unstoppable, and they're making the playoffs. I also find it ironic that the two teams that were a part of Super Bowl I, the Green Bay Packers and the Kansas City Chiefs, have an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. And, I do find that ironic, especially since the fact that the Green Bay Packers haven't done nothing for the last couple of years, and all of a sudden, they world beaters. I mean, I can accept the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, they've been coming for a while. But when you look at, some of the things that's going on, it kind of feels that way. And so I do, a part of me do feel like it is. But whatever. Who should you sign or pick up in free agency this offseason? Look, me personally, I'm going to be honest with you. I would pick up Everson Griffin. I heard that he was going to be a free agent. I heard some news that Everson Griffin, he played for the Minnesota Vikings. Y'all probably know him. I mean, Drew Brees definitely know him because he was the one out there beating them boys to sleep on the offensive line. Getting to Drew Brees. But I get Everson Griffin. I heard that they weren't trying to bring him back. And you have to get yourself another pass rusher, man. I mean, Marcus Davenport, God bless him, but he hasn't really shown what he can do. He's out there, he shows flashes, and he's incredible in the running game. I mean, he can set the edge like none other. He's extremely athletic. He has a lot of great abilities, but he can go quiet in games. You need somebody on the opposite side to make some noise, just like Cam Jordan. So I'll try to get somebody like Everson Griffin. For somebody like in a leadership role, I'll try to bring back Malcolm Jenkins. I know that may not be the most popular thing in the world to say, but he is going to be a free agent. I think that the Eagles are going to probably move on from him. I would re-sign Malcolm Jenkins because Malcolm Jenkins is not only a really smart football player, but he's a leader in the locker room. And I feel like that's probably something that these secondary players actually need. You look at somebody like Earl Thomas, who went from Seattle to the Baltimore Ravens, and you look at how they were performing in the secondary, like when he came along. You know, I mean, sometimes you need that voice in there that's seen it all and done it all, and then been through the ringer with teams and then fought, in order for you to try to motivate some of these younger guys. And I feel like, Malcolm Jenkins can really do wonders for a guy like C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I think that he'll help him, when it comes to, his secondary play, his intensity, his instincts. I mean, we can say it. I know y'all remember Malcolm Jenkins when he was in New Orleans, but Philadelphia Eagles Malcolm Jenkins is a completely different football player than what he was. And sometimes you got to go through those hardships sometime in order for you to become a better football player. Sometimes you got to get humbled and get cut or, allow a team to move away from you in order to really live out your true potential. So Everson Griffin would be one, and Malcolm Jenkins would be another in the secondary. And also, if there's another linebacker out there, I got to look at the free agent list. I'll probably get somebody else that could go on the other side of Demario Davis. There's a lot of young, hungry linebackers that you can possibly get, but I don't think the Saints need to go too crazy in free agency because I don't feel like teams actually win Super Bowls in free agency. I think it comes to teams actually hitting in the draft and getting some of these rookie players and striking while the iron is hot while these guys are on these rookie deals. I don't see teams, getting a whole bunch of guys. I mean, for example, look at the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns got all those guys, you got the Kareem Hunts, you got the Odell Beckham Jr.'s, you got the Jarvis Landry's, you got the Olivier Vernon's, you got the Myles Garrett's, and they done absolutely nothing with those guys. So it's not always about spending money in free agency. Sometimes you got to count on your front office in order for them to hit in the draft. So I think if the Saints do that, maybe get some guys that can come in there, as far as being in a leadership role, I think they should be okay because you need young talent, but you also need a good balance of leadership in your locker room too to keep these young knuckleheads in check. You know what I'm saying? When they get out of line, a seasoned veteran kind of pull them to the side. Hey man, look, this is what you need to do, and I've been here, and also kind of just help them out. So Everson Griffin, Malcolm Jenkins should be the two guys that I feel like the Saints need to pursue pretty hard. I think Everson Griffin will really help Cameron Jordan, and you have him rotating with Marcus Davenport. I think you should be okay. Good question, though, John. Leslie says, NFL is rigged, getting obvious every year. TJ, check your inbox message from UK Saints fans channel. Okay, Christopher, I will, man. And shouts out to the UK Saints fan channel, man. Man, y'all check them out. Fans over there across the pond, man, much love to y'all. Thank you for checking out the podcast. Thank you for supporting the State of the Saints podcast Facebook page. Katrina says, Pete and Warford had no business in the game, and that's how Zimmer took Drew down. Come on, Sean Payton, what happened to all the plays you were showing off last year? Look, check this out, Katrina. Larry Warford was hurt. He had a really bad knee injury. Shouldn't even really been out there. Andrus Peat, he was coming back from a broken arm. Shouldn't have been out there. Should have went with Nick Easton. Nick Easton was playing much better than Andrus Peat, and that's when Andrus Peat was healthy. I think that you needed to go in that route. Like I said, I feel like Sean Payton sometimes his pride get the best of him. He gets cocky and arrogant. He think that all his plays work. He think that he can win with basically anybody. Look, man, you got to be able to be humble. You got to have these tough conversations. You got to evaluate your talent. You got to look and say, man, well, this guy, even though he was a starter, I look at the production of Nick Easton, what he's been doing. I mean, they say that they check out analytics, and I'm pretty sure if you look at things analytically, it would tell you that Nick Easton was playing better at guard than Andrus Peat. I fail to believe that it would have been any other way. I can't remember the last time Nick Easton actually gave up a sack. I can't remember the last time Nick Easton just blew it when it comes to protecting Drew Brees. I mean, maybe y'all seen it, but I didn't. I think maybe he had maybe one false start penalty I can think of that stood out. But sometimes you got to humble yourself and be like, man, look, I got to do what's best for the team. Latavius Murray is running better than Alvin Kamara. This secondary player is playing a little bit better. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he's He's young, he's hungry, he's playing like he wants it. I think we need to replace him instead of putting PJ out there. Like, you really got to look at your team, man, and really humble yourself and put your team in the best position to succeed. As long as Sean Payton has that arrogant attitude, like, I know it all and I'm going to do it my way, you're not going to win nothing like that, man. You got to humble yourself. With cap space being moved up this season, will we have the cap space to keep all three quarterbacks? Honestly, John, it's possible. Like I said, it all has to do with if Drew Brees is willing to take a pay cut. I think that you can keep these guys. I really feel like the Saints are going to try to keep them. I don't feel like it's a coincidence that Teddy Bridgewater came back. I still feel like he was promised something by the Saints organization. I think they probably promised him to, that he might most likely end up being a successor to Drew Brees. I think that he's going to be willing to stay. I think Teddy Bridgewater understands the opportunity that he has ahead of him. I mean, honestly, Sean Payton can resurrect Teddy Bridgewater's career. I mean, we seen signs of it when he was playing those first 5 games. I know he left a lot to be desired when it comes to throwing the ball down the field. But one thing that you can say about Teddy, he did not really turn the ball over. 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 1,300 yards passing. And he was willing to do whatever it took in order for the Saints team to be successful. And not to mention the defense stepped up. You seen improvements in the defense. They were playing lights out during those 5 weeks. They had a lot of people scared. They had us screaming Super Bowl. We was like, man, if Drew Brees come back, ain't no way in the world we was going to lose another game. So if you combine that, I think that Teddy Bridgewater would, the only person I feel like can get Teddy Bridgewater away from the New Orleans Saints would be Bruce Arians. Because Bruce Arians is known as being a quarterback whisperer. His track record at working with Peyton Manning and, working in Arizona, getting guys like Carson Palmer, getting the best up out of them. You look at guys like that. I mean, when Chuck Pagano had that cancer scare, he was the interim coach. And you seen Andrew Luck out there playing and balling about his mind. So that's the only person that kind of scares me as far as like trying to get Teddy Bridgewater out of that. That would be a great situation. Like I say, he's a quarterback whisperer. It's located in Tampa, Florida, the state that he grew up in. That's the only team that scares me. New England doesn't scare me because I don't think Bill Belichick would be willing to try to pay up in order to get Teddy Bridgewater. I could be wrong, but it just seems like the track record of the New England Patriots just shows me they don't want to pay anybody. They didn't want to pay Tom Brady. They didn't want to pay Richard Seymour. They didn't want to pay Patrick Chung the first time around. They didn't want to pay Chandler Jones. They didn't want to pay Trey Flowers. So when you look at all these guys that go to other teams and produce really at a high rate, I mean, nothing about the New England Patriots telling me that they'll be willing to do that. And honestly, I feel like Bill Belichick wants to take a guy that's a diamond in the rough to really show how great his coaching is. And if they move on from Tom Brady, just to show that, hey, this was me winning those championships, not all Tom Brady. So if he can get somebody that's been struggling like a Andy Dalton or get somebody in the draft or even get that guy Jarrett Stidham, that's still on their team to play at a high level, I think that he might go that route. I mean, Belichick is about saving money, and he wants those guys to get them high marks on the Wonderlic test. So that's just my opinion on that. Mike Winkle says NFL is rigged. Mike Winkle, yeah, you're probably right, man. Let's see. Ask MJ if the sports organization is rigged or not. He lost his father for winning. Man, that's one heck of a conspiracy right there. The whole Michael Jordan daddy got murdered conspiracy. But, a lot of people feel like Michael Jordan dad got murdered because, Michael Jordan has a real bad gambling problem. And some people feel like he was in, in a bad spot with some even worse people. And, he owed some money and he didn't pay up. I mean, that's just the story. I don't know how true that is, but think about the State Farm commercial with Rodgers and Mahomes. Oh, man. Yeah, that's a good point, man. That commercial is, out there right now. I mean, I didn't think about it, but that's a good point. Sean has limited cooks. Also, when the plays are working, I don't think he limited cooks, especially in the second half of the season. I think that Jared Cook came on. He had some injuries at the beginning of the season, and he got better. as time went on. Me personally, I think the Saints need another pass catching tight end. I think that the Saints need to kind of go to that Patriots type offense when they had Gronk and they had what's the guy's name? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Aaron Hernandez. Yeah, when they had that 2 tight end set. I think if you get another tight end on the opposite side of Jared Cook, I think that you might be able to make some noise. I also feel like they need to get another wide receiver, but I don't think that he limited Cooks. I just think that the offense sometimes can be pretty predictable. I mean, you got those other wide receivers out there. Nobody even pay that much attention to them because they know the ball ain't going to get their way. They focus on 3 guys. They focus on Cook. They focus on Kamara. They focus on Thomas. That's it. Like, they don't focus on anybody else. And it's the shame on the Saints, that you're not opening up your playbook and allowing some of these other wide receivers to make plays. I feel like the Saints are handicapping themselves when the majority of your playbook is focusing on 3 dudes and sprinkle a little bit of Josh Hill in there. I feel like you're limiting yourself. Let's see. We need safeties. Yeah, we do need safeties. We need safeties that can hit. We need safeties kind of similar to C.J. Gardner-Johnson, guys that are out there willing to lay the big hit, lay the proverbial remember me shot, as was said by Greg Williams back in the day. We need guys like that. We don't need soft tackles, cottonelle, tissue doctors, cotton tacklers like Marcus Williams, a guy that's out here that's as I like to call him these days, the infamous knee tackler. We don't need no knee tacklers. We need a guy that's going to put a shoulder in somebody's chest and make them regret coming over the middle or regret, trying to catch that pass. That's exactly what we need. One thing you can say, and I know this guy wasn't that good in coverage, but one thing you can say about Roman Harper was out there hitting people. You know what I'm saying? Roman Harper was out there, laying people out. Like he was out there really putting his best effort. It wasn't the best in coverage, wasn't the fastest guy in the world, but you can't say that he didn't give it 100% every time he was on the field. Katrina Evans says, I kind of miss Vaccaro. Well, I don't. I mean, I understand that he caught an interception, in that divisional round game. That's cool. But I also seen the very next drive by the Baltimore Ravens, him give up that touchdown to that tight end. I just feel like Kenny Vaccaro, shouts out to him doing an outstanding job in Tennessee. He's a seasoned veteran now. He makes that secondary better, but he only had 1 interception that whole entire season, and he had 1 in the postseason. So, I'm not impressed with what I've seen out of Ken Vaccaro. I still feel like he still has the same type of issues. He still can't cover the tight end. And the way that the Tennessee Titans use him, they use him almost like a linebacker, so I'm not really impressed by that. I don't miss him at all. I think the Saints upgraded. As much as we talk about Marcus Williams, I think that Marcus Williams is a better football player overall than Kenny Vaccaro. And the position that, Von Bell, I feel like he's better than Kenny Vaccaro. And C.J. Gardner-Johnson, as of right now, I definitely feel that he's better than Kenny Vaccaro. Would you trade Alvin Kamara for Leonard Fournette? Nope. But I tell you what, I wouldn't trade Alvin Kamara for Leonard Fournette. But somebody said this to me. I don't know who it is, and I apologize, but somebody said, what if the New Orleans Saints traded Alvin Kamara to a team, in like the top 10 or something like that, and they get up and get the guy ETN out of Clemson, get that guy. That's honestly, that don't sound like a bad idea. The only thing about it is then you'll have 2 running backs that's kind of similar. ETN, as good as he is, man, he struggles in a pass catching game, and he struggles and blocking. His blocking needs to improve tremendously. He can't pass block really well. So even though that's a good idea, that's something that if you want to think outside the box. But at the end of the day, Alvin Kamara is here to stay. I don't see him leaving the New Orleans Saints. I think that he's too valuable. I don't think one season defines this guy as what he's done the entire season, even though I think he left a lot to be desired in the Who Dat Nation, but at the end of the day, Alvin Kamara is an incredible talent. And I don't want to be one of those guys just because he have a down year, man, let's get rid of him. I think that, when I think about it, he wasn't the same type of player. I think that he quit on plays, I will admit that, but Looking back at some of those games where, he would put his foot in the ground and cut, he was struggling with that. And if you notice, like the majority of the time where he actually broke off for a big run, it was just straight line. It had absolutely nothing to do with him, making cuts or putting his foot into the ground. So I give him the benefit of the doubt. But if he come out playing like he did late in this season, next season, then we're going to have some questions to ask about Alvin Kamara. LSU and Clemson is probably going to be one of the best games in college history. I think this game is going down in history for decades to remember. Leslie, we hope so. These are two really good football teams. Number one, I like Clemson a lot. Don't get me wrong. Especially staying in South Carolina, people are Clemson crazy around here. People got Clemson banners hanging all around. People wearing their Clemson T-shirts showing their pride. I have nothing against Clemson. Clemson is kind of similar to LSU. Not one of those teams that everybody pick every year. They're not a real big football factory. Well, they're starting to be one now. But you can tell Dabo Swinney, every time, he says anything, he gives God the glory. And you can tell, like, he just wants his team to be respected. As for somebody like Ed Orgeron, how can you not root for this guy? Here's a guy that could have easily been a coach at USC. And shouts out to USC. How y'all feel about that now? But he could have easily been a coach at USC. The only reason why is because they didn't like his southern dialect. He gets down here to LSU, and he learns from the mistakes that he made at Ole Miss. He makes himself a little bit of a facilitator. He gets the right coaches around him. And the next thing you know, he has a really good product on the field. He has guys that are disciplined. You don't really see the crazy stuff that you were seeing when Les Miles was coach. Every 2 days, you was watching LSU players getting arrested, LSU players getting kicked off the team, LSU players going down for drug possession. It seems like he really has a good core of players. He really has a good staff around him. So how can you not like these two guys? Of course, I'm cheering for the LSU Tigers. I'm Louisiana through and through. So, but I do admit it's going to be a really good game, and let the best team win. They need to lock down Janoris Jenkins. Yeah, I agree. They need to find a way to try to keep him. Maybe stretch his contract out a little bit, give him a little bit more up front. They need to do something. I would definitely keep Janoris Jenkins. I think the secondary, if he stays here, they don't have anything to worry about. PJ has to go. Yeah, I've been saying that since last season. I don't know why the Saints brought him back. I just don't get it. I don't know if he just know where the bodies are buried. I don't know if he know where the treasure is and people just waiting on him to tell him. I don't know what's going on. But at the end of the day, P.J. Williams has brought absolutely nothing but despair to the Who Dat Nation. Honestly, he's one of those players, once again, when the cameraman shows the ball downfield and, we holding our breath and we see number 26, we already know what's up. Okay? Is a reason why we see P.J. Williams back more than we see his front. That's because the receiver is in front of him and he trying to chase him, honestly, I forgot what P.J. Williams actually looked like because the only thing I seen was 26 and Williams, and that was the back of his jersey. That's all you see from P.J. Williams. So, in my honest opinion, I think the Saints need to allow this man to exit stage left. I've seen enough. I don't know about y'all, but I've seen enough. Let's see. Since Mark Ingram left, he's done nothing. He's just a version of Reggie Bush. Look, man, I think it's time for us to put this whole Mark Ingram is the reason why Alvin Kamara isn't successful. Man, I don't feel that way, man. Like, how can one person, I can understand if he was a receiver and it was a quarterback. I can understand that. But, they were just two guys that was in the locker room together. They were friends. You know what I'm saying? The NFL is a business. And if you allow, just because a guy got cut, to allow you to play horribly, man, shame on you. I just feel like Alvin Kamara, I don't know, he just left a lot on the field. I just feel like he left a lot on the field. I don't know what's going on in his personal life, but I do know if you're not focused, in all aspects of your life, it can affect your football life, And I feel like his head wasn't really in the game. I mean, I just didn't see that type of aggression. I didn't see that type of hunger. And I don't know, man. I don't know enough about him to say he was reading his press clippings. I don't know enough about him to say who he dating. I mean, I don't know, man. I just want him to play better. That's all I want from him. I just want him to play better. That's all I want from him. If he plays better, then I'll be fine. But I think it's something in him. I don't think it has nothing to do with Mark Ingram, but whatever it is, he need to figure it out, man. And the Saints really got to really take a close look at him, As good as he is, man, you want to ask the question, like, how hungry are you? Teddy ain't going anywhere. If he leaves, he's going to a garbage team. I don't see that happening. Teddy Bridgewater got to be really careful. He's walking a very tight line right now. Last season, week 17 was the last time anybody saw him before he actually came and won 5 straight games. And I was watching a lot of national shows, and people were talking about how bad he looked. And he ended up resurrecting his career, in those 5 games where he was with the New Orleans Saints. So right now there's a balance, I mean, he can teeter either way. It's a fine line between, going out there and chasing the money, and then you go to a situation that's not good for you. And the only positive is that you're making a whole bunch of money, but your career is going to struggle, So I think that he's in a good position. And you got to ask yourself this question, like, do you want to be great? Like, do you want to be great? Do you want to be remembered? Do you want to, be remembered as one of the great quarterbacks? Do you want to have an opportunity to go to Canton and be forever enshrined in the Hall of Fame? Or do you just want to chase money and be like, man, I made a lot of money in my lifetime. I mean, if you want to be Antonio Brown, fine. But, I dare him to be great. And I think Teddy wants to be great. I mean, honestly, man, he had an opportunity to go play for his hometown team, make way more money than what the Saints was giving him, and he turned it down. So that tell you right there that this guy wants to be great, and it's not just about making money. He wants to cement his legacy, and I think he thinks that the New Orleans Saints can get him where he needs to be. I think he feels like Sean Payton is the coach that can resurrect his career. He's seen what he did with Drew after a devastating injury, so why not him? Ted again can't catch the flu. Yeah, for real. Can't catch the flu, swine flu, man, Ebola, none of that. But he always struggled. Like, he always struggled throughout his career catching the ball. I can remember when the undefeated Carolina Panthers came into the Superdome, and this was during the time when Brandon Smoke Turkey Browner was here. I can remember Ted Ginn could have easily had about 4 touchdowns in that game. He dropped at least 2 touchdowns, and he caught 2. So I'm like, imagine how unstoppable Ted Ginn would be if he had that type of speed and Michael Thomas type hands. Like, you couldn't stop him. He'll be a beast. Like, he would be unstoppable. Jenkins, our best corner, you seen the difference when he came and how he had Diggs crying. Yep, he got him crying. Marshawn Lattimore, I like him. I think that the Saints need to sign him long term, but I do feel like he's lazy. Like, I feel like he's lazy. I feel like, like how some people can respond when all things kind of fail or whatever like that, and you kind of call them out. Then the next week they'll probably come out there and just be playing like that, like their house on fire, or they'll just come out there and just be beasting all over the place. But then, like, when people kind of get off their case, all of a sudden, they just, go back to being mediocre. I don't feel like he's hungry every week. I don't feel like he wants it every week. I feel like he needs to be motivated, but it's hard for him to motivate himself. And I think that's the big issue with him. I think he can be an all-time great. If he had Michael Thomas type work ethic and desire, I think that he'll be okay. The thing about it is he knows that he's good. He know he has skills, but, he's not motivated every week. Because how is it that you can shut down Mike Evans? How is it that you can contain Julio Jones, but Adam Thielen give you problems? Look, I'm not saying Adam Thielen is a scrub. I'm not saying Adam Thielen is chopped liver, but if you put Mike Evans, Julio, and Adam Thielen, like if you put them on a sheet, you'll take Adam Thielen last, I'm sure. I'm pretty sure you would. So I don't know, man. Like he's not really motivated, in my opinion. Let's see. That's what I'm saying. Lil Jordan Humphrey is that receiver. Yeah, he can be, but the Saints don't use him. Marcus Williams needs to go. Marcus Williams, I just need to see more out of him. But if it comes down to it, if it was about saving C.J. Gardner-Johnson or Marcus Williams, like I'm going with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. As well and how good the instincts are of Marcus Williams at tracking the football, I mean, that means absolutely nothing when you out there, not playing aggressive, when you're not rising to the occasion, And like I said, I feel so bad because I know for a fact if Marcus Williams was to go to another team, he's going to be one of them players that we talk about. Like, why did we get rid of this guy? He has it in him, like he has everything that he needs in order for him to be a really good safety. And I'm telling you, he's going to be one of those guys that's going to be in the league for a long time. Like, except like if he, gets like a career-threatening injury or something like that. Knock on wood, that never happens. But I'm telling you, man, I see a lot of what I saw in Malcolm Jenkins in Marcus Williams. A whole lot. I'm telling you, he goes somewhere else, he gonna be one of them players like, dang, why we got rid of him? We should have been patient with him, but I don't know. I'm afraid that the Saints are not going to be able to get it out of him. My list of people who needs to go: Eli Apple, Andrus Peat, P.J. Williams. Honestly, I think you're going to get all three, Steven. Well, four. I see Ted again, Jr. I think you're going to get all four. What I seen out of Devontae Harris, what I seen out of him, I think that was the writing on the wall for Ted Ginn. I think it was psychologically scarred. They was psychologically scarred by his knee injury and was playing soft. Which person you talking about with the knee injury, Bobby? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know exactly who you're talking about when it comes to knee injury. So let me know who you were referring to. Keenan says Teddy wants to play for Sean Payton. Yeah, he does. He likes Sean Payton a lot, and Sean Payton likes him. Let's see. Ted again reminds me of Devery. A lot of speed with unsure hands. Well, I'll say this, though, Keenan. When Devery Henderson was at LSU and, when he was out there, he was catching the ball really well, okay? But, I guess there's a difference when, Matt Mock throwing you the football versus the actual NFL quarterback. No disrespect to Matt Mock, but I think we all can agree that Matt Mock was, mediocre to say the least. You look at some of these other quarterbacks that was, throwing him the football in college. I mean, they couldn't, man, let's be honest, man. College quarterbacks for LSU in the early 2000s wasn't hitting on nothing. I think we all can agree with that, okay? Devery Henderson struggled when he first got into the league catching the football, but as time went on, working with Coach Curtis Johnson, he improved tremendously. He was a street route runner, and majority of the time he was catching the football, so he improved like later in his career. The thing about Ted Ginn, hands didn't really improve. I mean, he was 50-50 when he came in, and he was 50-50 most likely when he going to leave out. We gave him 3 years to prove himself. It's hard to say that he didn't prove himself, Brian. I think the only thing is, like, some of these big moments. I think that's what's standing out to us, because if we look at week one, we look at how this guy, basically covered 20 yards of field to jump in front of that pass by, Deshaun Watson and jump in front of DeAndre Hopkins and catch that interception. I watched, when they played, the Atlanta Falcons, and late in the game, when he jumped in front of that route and caught that interception. It's just the fact that when the game is on the line, chips on the table. I like saying that. He just shrinks. I guess the only knock that he actually has is the clutch gene. Do you believe in that? That's the question. Do you believe in that clutch genes? You know what I'm saying? So The only thing that you can really say about him is he not clutch. I mean, if you look at Pro Football Focus, I mean, he's the #1 rated safety in the National Football League. I mean, he got snubbed from the Pro Bowl, to be honest with you. The only thing is, in big-time situations, when it's all on the line, he shrinks. I mean, that's the only thing about it. Like, if he would have caught, let's just say, for example, Kirk Cousins throws that ball down the field, Patrick Robinson, gets burnt, and Marcus Williams sees that, jumps in front of that, and catches the interception. Are we having the same conversation about this man needing to be cut? Probably not. It's just the fact that in big-time situations, we look at that 49ers game. We look at the Minneapolis Miracle. We look at the Vikings overtime game, in the Superdome just a couple weeks ago. It's just he has been in a vicinity or has been part of the heartbreaking moments that took place with this franchise over the past 3 years. If he would have caught that interception, if he wouldn't have whiffed on that tackle, if he would have tackled, honestly, if he would have tackled Stephon Diggs and the Minneapolis Miracle have never happened, he would have been a hero. I mean, honestly, it's a fine line between a hero and a GOAT. Because I'll tell you, didn't he not catch an interception to get the Saints back in the game? He did. So imagine if he would have tackled Stephon Diggs. Imagine if he would have jumped in front of Adam Thielen and caught the interception. We wouldn't even be talking about this man. It's just the moments where it matters most, he has come up short. So the only thing you can really just say about him is, those moments, they kind of just stand out more than the other moments that are good that he does. And he does a lot of good. I mean, he does a lot of good, man. It's just those moments that hurt us the worst he was a part of. So 2 plays, in his entire career, is the reason why we're having this conversation about him. If he would have caught that interception or if he would have made that tackle on Stephon Diggs, we wouldn't even be having this conversation about him. Let's just be honest about it. We wouldn't. Well, it must be the defensive coordinator. It is. It is the defensive coordinator. I think we need to understand that, man. Y'all think it's a coincidence that none of the Saints wide receivers ever turn their head around? That's coaching. I just feel like when Dennis Allen goes up against an offensive-minded coach, he gets outmatched. He gets out-schemed. He gets outplayed. The strategy that he has is not really good. I don't know, man. I don't think he's going anywhere because Sean Payton likes him. But I will say this. I'm kind of happy that some of the New Orleans Saints, for the exception of Mike Nolan, as far as the defensive coordinators are concerned, I'm glad that they're going to end up having to go in another direction because I heard Aaron Glenn could possibly be the next defensive coordinator of the New York Football Giants. And all I got to say is, nah, 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 nah. Nah, 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 nah. Hey, hey, hey. Goodbye. Time for him to go. I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he's going to end up possibly getting a defensive coordinator job. Good for him. But I've seen enough. Has he helped the secondary? Absolutely. Has he given these guys confidence? Absolutely. Have these guys been wanting to play for him? Absolutely. But when you look at how these guys just get beat time after time and just continuously rip your heart out because you know for a fact that they're going to give up a big play when it matters most, I've seen enough. And, I feel like Dennis Allen, he probably going to get 1 more year. He'll probably get 1 more year to prove himself. But at the end of the day, I think he's going to end up being gone too. I think the Saints need a whole different, I think they need a whole different voice when it comes to the defensive coordinators. And I know, the reason why he don't want to get rid of them, it have a lot to do with the fact that, man, you really don't want to change coordinators. That's kind of tough for your team, listening to different philosophies year after year. That's why I got so much respect for Alex Smith, man. Alex Smith, the first 7 years that he was with the 49ers, he had 7 different offensive coordinators. There's 7 different playbooks that man had to memorize. I mean, unbelievable. And the fact that he actually been in the league this long, I mean, if you have a quarterback that had 7 different offensive coordinators, he got to be a pretty special guy to still be in the league, because have to understand all them different philosophies every single year in order for you to try to, create a good solid season. Like, that's hard. So I got a lot of respect for that. So I can understand why they don't want to get rid of coordinators. It's tough when you have a defense, they have to listen to different philosophies. So I'm pretty sure they're going to keep him, but I'm pretty sure if he doesn't perform well next season, they probably going to get rid of him. Alvin Kamara played soft when he came back from after his injury. Yeah, he did, saving himself. Not sure if this question has been asked or not, but what is the most pressing need in the draft? I say wide receiver. What say you, sir? I agree with you, Jared. I agree with you with the wide receiver. I also think the Saints need another safety, and I would definitely get another cornerback. But if I had to put them in a category of importance, based on the needs, I would have to go with wide receiver first. I would have to go with offensive lineman second, and I would go with safety third. I feel like those are the needs. As far as free agency is concerned, Jared, I would try to get another pass rusher, opposite of Cam Jordan, a seasoned veteran, a guy that can rotate with Marcus Davenport. But wide receiver is definitely a need, and if y'all look at the mock draft and look at some of these wide receivers coming out, New Orleans Saints, they have an opportunity to get a really good wide receiver. This is kind of similar to that 2016 draft that they had when all those receivers came out. Odell Beckham Jr., Brandon Cooks, guys like that. I think Mike Evans was in that draft. They had a lot of talent in that draft. This draft is kind of similar to that. So even though the Saints are picking at number 24, they still can get themselves a pretty solid receiver. Especially if you look at some of the needs of some of these earlier teams. I don't think they have a lot of teams that need wide receivers right now. Most of them are going to try to get, offensive linemen or defensive players. So the Saints might end up getting a really good wide receiver at the 24th spot. And who's to say that the Saints won't try to move up? We know that the Saints have a history of being aggressive in the draft. So be on the lookout for that. And for all those that's talking about the Saints need to draft Joe Burrow, don't set yourself up for disappointment, folks. He is going to the Cincinnati Bengals. Unless the Saints are going to be able to give the Cincinnati Bengals the moon and the stars, he is not coming to New Orleans, okay? I think we need to just sit back and watch this national championship game and just reflect on how much pride this guy has brought to the state of Louisiana, and just cheer for him as he becomes a Cincinnati Bengal throughout his career, because he is not, I repeat, is not coming to New Orleans. The only way he'll come to New Orleans if somebody invite him down here or something, because he ain't coming. Alvin Kamara plays soft. Yeah, I already read that. We haven't had a good defensive coordinator since Greg Williams. I want to say that Dennis Allen is not a good defensive coordinator, because the defense have improved. And, I will say that the defense honestly has been playing better since he has been a coach versus Greg Williams. The only difference about Greg Williams, the defense was a little bit more aggressive. I mean, we all know that Greg Williams going to get off the bus blitzing folk. You know what I'm saying? He going to get off the bus trying to blitz you and take your head off. I think that Dennis Allen is a little bit more organized, a little bit more strategic in his approach. I think that he's a decent coordinator. Do I think that he's an elite coordinator? Absolutely not. No. In my honest opinion, if we want to be real and 100, if I was Sean Payton, I would humble myself, I would pick up the phone, and I would call Rex Ryan. That's what I do. Now, I know what some of y'all are saying, man, what about Rob Ryan? He sucked. No, I'm talking about Rex Ryan, okay? They two completely different guys, okay? Two completely different. I would pick up the phone, and I would call Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan is a much better defensive coordinator than his brother. Y'all remember all them, the 2000 Ravens and all that kind of stuff like that? Who you think was the defensive coordinator during that time? Who y'all think was there? You know what I'm saying? Well, Marvin Lewis. Marvin Lewis was there. Rex Ryan was there. Like, these were the coordinators, dude. Like, so, yeah, I'll pick up the phone and call Rex. And, I mean, I'm pretty sure he was on, and Sean Payton was on NFL Countdown, so I'm pretty sure they talked. So that's what I'll do. I mean, I don't know how his brother Rob would feel about it, because I think they left on bad terms. He said he felt like he was the scapegoat, which I think we all can disagree that he was, you know what I'm saying, that he was not. But I'll call Rex Ryan. That's what I do. You call Rex Ryan, you're going to have yourself a really good defense. So that's why I feel like that'll solve that problem. Because I honestly don't think Rex Ryan will ever be a head coach again. I don't see that. But I do feel like somebody can call this man up, you know, and why not the Saints? I feel like if you call him, they're going to solve the defense problem. Do you think we can sign Pete and trade him off for a second-round draft pick this year? Nope, not happening, Eric. I'm about to tell you why. Oh, yeah, Leslie says big up to Demario Davis. Absolutely. Shouts out to him. But as far as Pete, let me tell y'all something, okay? As upsetting as it is that we watch Andrus Peat just get whooped every year, the guy's going to end up going in free agency, and he's going to make a lot of money. One thing you can't say about Andrus Peat, whether you like him or not, the guy is smart, okay? He used that Stanford education. He's a really smart guy. This guy's played like 3 different positions on the offensive line. He has played left tackle when Teron Armstead was out. He didn't play guard. He didn't play right tackle when Zach Strief was hurt before. He has played like 3 positions. He basically can set his price. You know, and I'm pretty sure he's going to end up being a left tackle. They're going to make him a left tackle. And we all know, besides the quarterback, the left tackle is one of the highest paid players in the National Football League. So with that being said, Andrus Peat is going to end up being somebody left tackle. I fail to believe that Andrus Peat is going to accept a contract that is, what I feel like would be a lowball number, when he can go and test himself in free agency and make a whole bunch of money. Like a lot of money. So I don't think that that's going to happen as far as with the draft picks. How about Ed Reed for secondary coach? I don't know how to feel about that because, number one, how much coaching experience does he have? I know for a fact that Jonathan Velma, since he retired, he has been working with the linebackers from, Miami. You know, even though he's not on the staff, he still works with those guys. I don't know if Ed Reed will be able to be a coach. I don't know if he has the desire to do it. I think sometimes we think that when players are great, that just means that they're going to end up being a really good coach. That's not the case all the time. That's not the case all the time. I mean, there's a reason why some of the best, players don't end up being coaches. The only great player that I ever known to end up being a really good coach, and I have to think about basketball, is Larry Bird. Larry Bird is like the only great player that I ever seen that ended up transitioning, afterwards, and was a really good coach. That's the only person I can just truly think of. Think about Jordan. I mean, horrible executive. You think about Magic Johnson, was a horrible executive and a horrible coach at the time. You think about Jason Kidd, horrible coach. Honestly, man, great players don't transition to being great coaches. I think because they spend so much time being great, they ain't looking at the other person on the side of them. So if Ed Reed can prove that he can coach, then I say go for it. But don't just hire him because he's Ed Reed. Okay, I mean, somebody mentioned Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders has coaching experience. Deion Sanders coaches high school. Deion Sanders coaches his son. Somebody said Mike Dicker. Mike Dicker was not a great coach. Come on, man. Come on. No, Mike Dicker was not a great coach. Mike Dicker had a really great defense because of Buddy Ryan. You know what I'm saying? Let's just call it for what it is. He had them 85 Bears, and he been making it off them 85 Bears for years. Now, as far as him being a really good player, a football player, absolutely. One of the greatest tight ends of all time. I will give you that. But he was not a great coach. I mean, did I need to tell y'all about what he did in New Orleans? I mean, trading the moon and the star for Ricky Williams, only for him to be hurt every year, only for him to get turf toe. Like, come on, man. Like, man, we remember that. You remember on that commercial? Patrick Farms remembers. T.J. Jones remembers. I remember how bad the Saints was, getting the Billy Joes. I mean, going 3-13. I mean, he is not. He was not. I mean, I'm just saying, Jay. I understand why you brought him up, but honestly, he was more sizzle than steak. Okay, he had a great personality. He was a really fiery guy. He was a real passionate guy, and I feel like that kind of made him. Now, he only had, one Super Bowl? And somebody will probably say, well, I can't even say that because we're talking about players. Bill Cowher wasn't a player. But Bill Cowher has more skins on the wall than Mike Dicker, in my opinion. But I know Bill Cowher was a player, but he wasn't that good. I think he played for the Chiefs or something like that back in the heyday. But he wasn't a really good player. Mike Dicker was a great football player. In my opinion, he was a good coach. Wasn't great, good. That's just what it is. I just don't see it. But back to Ed Reed, I don't think the Saints should just get him because he's Ed Reed. I don't. I don't think that you should just hire a guy just because of who they are. Deion Sanders, like I say, he has skins on the wall. He's been coaching his kids. He coaches like other people's kids. He has those intramural football teams and stuff like that. So I can understand why, people are talking about Florida State was thinking about reaching out to him. And I can even understand why the Saints would want to reach out to him. But Ed Reed, I mean, just because you're Ed Reed don't mean, you can just coach the secondary. So you got to be able to, prove yourself. I don't even think Ed Reed coaching nobody. I don't think he coaching nobody. Does he? Is he down in Louisiana coaching somebody? Is he down in Baltimore coaching? I don't know. One last question. If we had a shot to get A.J. Green in free agency, do you think he could work in New Orleans if he is able to stay healthy? Eric, good question. Would I get A.J. Green? No. I wouldn't get him. And not because I don't feel like he'll work out in New Orleans. I'm looking at the longevity of the team. I think when you go out here and you get these free agents, these hot free agents, you got to pay them a lot of money. And I don't know if it's just the whole Jarvis Bird thing just left a bad taste in my mouth when it comes to the Saints and getting those big free agent acquisitions or not. But I just feel like teams just don't win championships just by going out here and just, going willy-nilly and going crazy in free agency. I just don't. You look at some of these teams, man. I mean, a lot of these Super Bowl teams, they build their teams through the draft. Have absolutely nothing to do with free agency. Yeah, you can get a guy here, a guy there, free agency to kind of plug up a spot. But I just feel like if you can hit in the draft, you get these young players that are making X amount of dollars. It's not really taking that much off of your cap versus a guy that's been in the league so long he's going to be asking for $20 million or $22 million a year. I feel like that handicaps your team, especially if that guy's not available, and especially if you have an opportunity to go out here and get a player that can be way more beneficial to your team in the draft. I feel like the Saints can go out here and get a wide receiver that can do the same thing that A.J. Green does. And if he doesn't come into the league doing it, you can teach him how to do it. But if you go out here and just get A.J. Green wants, I'm just saying, if he won $15 or $16 million, that could have been another linebacker. That could have been another defensive end. That could have been another safety. That could have been something like that the Saints really need. I mean, the Saints already got their star wide receiver in Michael Thomas. You just need somebody else to go on the opposite side of Michael Thomas to take some of the coverage off of him. And if this guy's winning this matchup, if this guy's beating press coverage, then you'll be able to be successful. So You get yourself a 6'3", 215, 220-pound receiver, and and the crazy thing about it is, you think about the Saints, they could have had DK Metcalf. They could have had him. You know what I'm saying? They could have had DK Metcalf. But they didn't get him. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was so many teams that could have got this guy. And I just like, why? You know what I'm saying? Like, this guy, I understand, like, he had some kind of neck injury or something like that, probably scared teams. That's why he dropped. But, you get yourself a 6'3", 215-pound guy. You get yourself a good skilled guy, a guy with a lot of promise, a lot of talent, and you go out there and you try to win yourself a second Lombardi. That's what you do. I just don't feel like going out here getting AJ Green is the answer. Now, AJ Green will fit well with the Saints organization. I mean, he's a quiet guy. He really don't, he don't try to rattle the cages. The only thing I ever seen out of him was the fight that he got in with Jalen Ramsey. But besides that, man, he's a really quiet guy, keeps to himself, not a guy that's always in the news, so he would fit in with the Saints organization as far as his personality. But throwing money at a guy that's a seasoned veteran when you have so many other places you can put that money, I'm not in agreement with. But that's a good question, Eric. Thank you. Jay says, Bird, Browner, David, bad move. Sharper, Breeze, Sproles, great move. Free agent, dice roll. Draft, more of a sure bet. Yeah, let me tell you something, man. Like, Sharper was a good move. Breeze was a good move. Sproles was a good move. Really good move. You got to add Jonathan Velma in there. You got to add Demario Davis in there. Demario Davis is slowly becoming one of the best free agents the Saints have ever had. I think he kind of surpassed Jonathan Velma, especially with that first team All-Pro. And we all can agree that he got snubbed from the Pro Bowl. But one thing that these guys are different when it comes to free agency. Jarius Byrd was one of the most highly sought out free agents coming out of Buffalo. The Saints threw the Saints backed up the Brinks truck in front of this dude's house. Brandon Browner was damaged goods. Jason David, they kind of threw some money at him, but that was just a big mistake because Jason David was smoking mirrors. The way that the Indianapolis Colts were playing during the time, they played a lot of zone coverage, and Jason David was a slot corner that the Saints played like he was a outside corner, and he's not. So big mistakes back in those days. When it comes to Sharper, Sharper was a guy that got snubbed by Minnesota. Minnesota didn't want to pay him because they felt like he was getting up there in age. And the Saints picked him up, okay? He wasn't like one of those guys that made just a whole bunch of money. Drew Brees, same thing. Darren Sproles, Saints kind of gave him a little bit of a contract, coming out of San Diego. But the only persons I can just look up here and just with like highly sought out was Jason David and Jarius Byrd. But I understand what you're saying. It's hit and miss. I do agree with that, Jay. But when it all comes down to it, I feel like the draft is the best bet. You save money and you count on your front office in order for you to get the players that you need. Just like the 49ers, they built off the draft. Yep. Bosa, Armstead, guys in the secondary. Like, all these guys are like young. Warner, like all of these different guys in the 49ers organization, they build through the draft. Okay? That's the way to do it. I just feel like going out here getting guys who I consider mercenaries is not going to win you nothing. You look at some of these guys that won the Super Bowl. Man, you look at the Patriots. The Patriots will go out here and get one probably good splash free agent, probably be a cornerback, and then they just roll with what they got. That's how you do it. Like, that's honestly, that's how you do it. Let's see. Bird was bad, but Browner was the worst. Yeah, Browner was bad, but I think Jason David was worse than Brandon Browner. Brandon Browner, was a guy who was just over the hill. Like, he was done. He was through. Michael Thomas needs a John Taylor to a Jerry Rice. Yep, that's what they need. They need somebody that doesn't shrink in a moment. They need somebody that can beat press coverage. I'm telling y'all, man, like just watching some of these Saints games and just paying attention. Because what I do is I'll watch the game and then I'll go back and I'll just focus on certain players. Traquan Smith was like not getting off the ball. You know what I'm saying? He just wasn't. He just wasn't. You know, like if you press him, like you can do whatever you want to him. The Saints need somebody that's going to be able to beat press coverage. Emmanuel Butler should have been number 2 to Michael Thomas. Eric, I feel what you're saying. I really do. But I would rather the Saints go this route with Emmanuel Butler than to put him on the field and he's not ready. I think the fact that the Saints kind of redshirted him his first season, that's fine. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to put this guy on the field just because, like, oh, man, like, let's see what he got. And you destroy this man's confidence. I like the way the Saints are trying to, like, they're trying to, like, basically build this guy up. Putting him on the practice squad, allowing him to work alongside Michael Thomas, allowing him to work with Curtis Johnson, the wide receivers coach. He struggled when it comes to the blocking. He struggled with getting off the ball. These are things that I've heard, okay? Because, I mean, I've asked this question. And shouts out to, the reporter for the Saints. But the answer was he struggled in a blocking game. He struggled getting off the ball. He struggled in his routes. You know what I'm saying, on his breaks. That was what was told to me, okay? So you can say that this guy, you want this guy and stuff like that, but you get him out there, and then you see why he's not on the field. So you want to be careful with a guy like that. You build this guy up. I mean, he has all the upside. You allow him to sit out the first season. You work with him. You build him, and then the next season he comes out and be a contributor to the team. So that's what you do. That's what you do. Like, don't think about this, man. Like, if some of y'all probably coached or something like that. Okay, let's use kids, okay? When your kid starts out, you put training wheels on his bike, his or her bike, right? And once they get their balance, all of a sudden you be like, okay, I'm gonna take, we're gonna take the training wheels off. And you know what I'm saying, next thing you know, your kid just riding up and down, don't need the training wheels no more. But you ain't about to just automatically just start them, out on a bike with no training wheels. You know what I'm saying? Eventually they probably going to scrape their knee, fall into the bushes somewhere, right? So I think the Saints did the right thing. Don't want to destroy this young man's confidence if you feel like this guy can be the next Megatron, or he can be the next Terrell Owens, or he can be the next Randy Moss. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that he's going to be any of these guys, but you look at this guy's size. I mean, he's a freak of nature, man. This dude in a Saints uniform in his rookie season looked like he's a seasoned veteran. I mean, he's a big physical guy, you can tell. So why not coach him up to get the best out of his potential? So I like what the Saints did. I don't think that, they just need to put him on the field because, we just won't see him on the field. I would rather him be on the sidelines and, and train and develop. That's what I want. I think Teddy B passes the ball to anyone, can get open or make a play. He never threw just to 3 players. He threw to anyone who can make a play, and I think that's why Teddy was so successful when he played. That, Leslie, and it had a lot to do with him being a part of the scout team as well. And I also think that it had something to do in training camp, his rapport with Traquan Smith. Traquan Smith was one of those guys that I'm pretty sure worked a lot with Teddy Bridgewater. And honestly, I seen the production out of Traquan Smith kind of increase when, when Teddy Bridgewater was in. I seen him throw passes to him. And, I just feel like that kind of connection was pretty decent. Even though, he missed a couple games, Traquan Smith, it seemed like he more comfortable with Teddy Bridgewater than he was with Drew Brees. Jared says, "Say, bro, keep up the good work with the podcast." Thank you, Jared, man. Thank you for your questions, too. I appreciate that. Let's see. I agree with you on Butler. He definitely sees his potential. He has a huge upside if they develop him right. Yep. I wish Coleman, the receivers a few years ago worked out. His height was such a mismatch. Yeah, I mean, the Saints kind of used him in goal line situations, and I feel like the Saints made a big mistake with Brandon Coleman. I think that the Saints should have allowed a talk to Brandon Coleman about possibly becoming a tight end. The reason why I say that is because out of all of the wide receivers, Brandon Coleman was probably one of the best blockers of the wide receivers. And the majority of the time, the Saints used him in goal line situations anyway. So I think if they probably would have talked to him, asked him to put on about 10 or 15 more pounds and moved him to the inside and you know what I'm saying, and turned him into a tight end, can you imagine how it would have been like to have him and Jared Cook on the same team? Like the Saints probably would have, that dude would have been a matchup nightmare. So I feel like the Saints should have like moved him to the tight end position. If they would have moved him to the tight end position, I think he would have still been playing. I think that he was a huge disappointment as a wide receiver. He never developed to being the player that the Saints wanted him to be. But at the end of the day, I feel like the Saints should have seen the good things that he's done, and they should probably talk to him about possibly becoming a tight end. And I think that his career would have been resurrected if they would have went that route. But thank you all very much for all your questions. I know I went a little bit long, but I just wanted to make sure I answer everybody's questions. I'm probably going to end up doing this probably like once a week in the off season. It's not going to be, just a one-time thing, even though the season is over. This is the State of the Saints podcast. We're going to talk about the Saints all year round. News probably be a little bit dead because it's the off season, but we're going to continue to talk about the Saints continuously. Inbox me your questions, man. Thank y'all so much for all that you all do. Listening to me and taking the time out your busy schedules and submitting your questions. I appreciate that. But you can inbox me here on Facebook, or you can email me at stateofthesaints@gmail.com. And if you don't know, I am on YouTube, youtube.com, search State of the Saints Podcast. I just uploaded a new video talking about the divisional round games and how I feel like the Saints should have been looking at some of those games and what some of those games can possibly teach the Saints organization. So youtube.com, search State of the Saints Podcast. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Subscribe to the channel. Also follow me on Instagram, TJ_Jones_, TJAY Jones_, and on Twitter at SOTS Podcast 8. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?